Hi, my name is Misha and I'm working on a cozy pet game called Dracopets. In this video, I want to talk about how I overcame perfectionism and sensitivity to feedback, which is something I struggled with for most of my life. Just recently, I got feedback around making the pets more unique and memorable, and instead of not feeling good enough, as I would in the past, I got really excited about implementing the improvements. So, how did I go from feeling so overwhelmed and never finishing anything to consistently working on the same project and feeling grateful for feedback? Let's talk about the foundations first, and then we will jump into something practical. So that we are on the same boat, I want to make a distinction between having high standards and feeling so overwhelmed by perfectionism that you can spend years planning the thing without ever actually starting. Having high standards means that you have a quality bar for your project and you will not settle for less. It is striving for perfection, but understanding the reality of it, that it is something you get closer to through the cycle of feedback and iteration, and ideally being at peace with the fact that perfection is something you can never fully achieve. On the other hand, the perfectionism I'll be talking about today is an absolutely crippling condition that prevents you from even starting. And in the cases where you do set out to create anything, you end up giving up as soon as it shows any flaws. And it always does. After untangling my own issues with this, I've come to believe that perfectionism has little to do with being a control freak or wanting to have things done right. Instead, it is a pathological fear of feedback, whether that is criticism or it's constructive or it's crickets. It all feels so horrible that I would rather go through years and years of trying to make something perfect and failing over and over again than to put myself through that and face the crushing reaction of other people. Perfectionism is when you get an 80% positive feedback with 20% of it needs a bit more work and you feel completely devastated by it because what I made is not perfect and I will be never good enough and why can't you love me as I am? So what do? Before I jump to the solution, let's quickly understand where this is coming from, or at least where it came from for me. I grew up in a family where criticism was a daily thing, and not just towards me. People were criticizing each other all the time. It was wild. So I would often feel like nothing I did was good enough, and it hurt. But here is really the deadly combination, because I was also led to suppressing my emotions. And so I would get hurt, and instead of processing this hurt and getting it out of my system, I would just stuff it down and move on. And then I got hurt again and stuffed it down again. And by the time I was in my teens, the ball of hurt was so big that I couldn't handle even a minor criticism, especially towards my work, less so towards myself. I started isolating myself, and even though sometimes I did work on my projects, I never showed them to anybody, which completely prevented me from pursuing any of the careers that I actually cared about. From what I hear, this problem of sensitivity to feedback is becoming more and more common. Here is my theory as to why that might be. Just to be clear, I am a creative, I am not a psychologist. This is just my personal theory, based on my understanding of these things. Criticism is an attack on your personhood. It is sending the message that there is something wrong with you and that you are not good enough. And we all receive these kind of messages daily now. You go on social media and you see people who are better looking and more successful and smarter than you. And they all tell you that you will never achieve what you want and you will never be the person you want to be unless you buy this or do that. And nothing is ever enough. The feeling of being inadequate and out of place is drilled into us, both implicitly and explicitly. Along with that, if you spend a lot of time with technology and you don't give your brain the opportunity to just wander and process without distractions, you get emotional suppression packaged in for free. So you no longer have to grow up in a crazy family like mine to become like me. Bad news. We all receive this deadly combo of criticism and emotional suppression now, and so many of us carry this huge ball of hurt with us everywhere we go. And here is where you get advice like, you just need to grow a thicker skin. Well, I guess I'm gonna become an effing elephant. And it will still not help, because the pain is not coming from the outside, it's coming from the inside. So what do? When someone gives you feedback, it's supposed to hurt a little bit. It's like growing pains. It generally feels good. You know that if you follow through on that and improve, you're gonna be so much better off. But what happened instead for me is that this huge pent-up pain came out all at once, and I got so overwhelmed that I either got defensive or I completely shut down. And deep down I knew that wasn't right, that I shouldn't be having such an extreme reaction to feedback. I was really ashamed of feeling so strongly about it. And so what I did is that I just took all of this and I stuffed it back down. And then inevitably next time I received feedback, it would come up again because it had nowhere else to go. And that led me to isolating myself and avoiding feedback altogether. And that is a terrible way to live your life. You cannot be functional in a normal life without facing feedback from other people. The first step towards resolving this is to get rid of the shame and understand the mechanism on which this works, and that anyone under the same circumstances would get overwhelmed. Think of it this way. If you would stuff your attic with garbage every single day for years and years, and then one day you would open the door and you got drowned in all the stuff, would there be something wrong with the attic? Or does it just mean that you need to clear the garbage out? And it's sort of the same with us. There is nothing wrong with you, or there was nothing wrong with me. I just needed a little bit of internal cleanup. Shame makes you run away from the problem, to hide and not want to look at it anymore. But if you no longer have to feel ashamed, then you can look at the problem. And if you can look at it, you can resolve it. And the way to resolve this is relatively simple, but it may take some time and effort. Vent it out. Just get it out of you. There is no reason for you to carry this ball of hurt around anymore. Have a good cry, or 100. Talk to a friend. Go to therapy or book a rage room. You have to get it out. The only way that this will ever change is through genuine emotional expression in a safe environment. And that is very important. I would not recommend doing this processing with the original offenders. Do it somewhere safe. Hurt is a combination of anger because your personhood got attacked, and sadness because the environment could not provide you with what you needed at the time, and you were not seen for who you are. And they both need to come out. I really struggled with both, and I know that many of you might struggle with one more than the other, but it is necessary that you process both. If you've been saving up for a few decades like I have, then it might take some while to get through the backlog of emotions. I have been doing this kind of deeper emotional work for about 2 years now, And it is only now that I feel comfortable opening up about it and talking about it, because I see the insane benefits that I get from it. It goes slow, especially at the start, but you will see improvements along the way, and it gets faster and faster. I know that that may not be the answer that some of you were looking for, and it was very difficult for me to stop suppressing myself and to actually let myself feel my feelings. But it absolutely changed my life, and that is the way to go forward. Now let's jump to something a little bit more practical so that we address the second part of this. A huge problem that I used to have when I was a perfectionist was that I looked at my first iteration of whatever I was making, and I was so overwhelmed by the feeling of this sucks that I abandoned completely fine projects that had a lot of potential and just needed a little bit more time in the oven. The emotional work gave me the ability to receive feedback, but to push through this overwhelm, I created a simple framework for myself that I want to share with you. I call it the CAT framework because I like CAT, and CAT stands for criteria, assessment, and to-do list. The purpose of this exercise is to take things from the land of the vague, this sucks, into the land of the specific and actionable to-do list. I will demonstrate this framework on the flower breeding system in my game that desperately needs a second iteration. Step 1. What are the criteria I'm judging my work by? For my project, which is a game project, it will be functionality. Is it functional? Does it do what it needs to do? Then to visuals and audio. Does it look good? Does it sound good? And the third one is UI UX. Does it feel good to use? So let's look at it and answer these questions. Is it functional? Yeah, it works fine. It does what it needs to do. It's nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. So I already know one area that I'm okay with. Now let's look at, does it sound good? I think it sounds all right for now. Does it look good? No. Is it pleasant to use? And this is where it's really nice to have some time to play test it, and especially to watch other people play the game and not intervene, just see what they struggle with. And the answer is that no, definitely it does not feel very good to use, and it also scales very poorly. Now I know which areas I need to focus on, and I can jump to assessment. What are the specific problems I can see with this? And don't think about solutions at this step yet, because you might not have the solution that you need to the problem just yet, and that is where it gets really overwhelming. So let's name the problems first. So for the visuals, I think the main problem here is that it's a menu and not an experience, which can be okay if you're making a game for a bunch of nerds. But since I am making a game for kids and the cozy audience, it definitely should be a little bit more of an experience. And then the UI visuals themselves need a rework. I am not happy with the quality of what's there right now. For the UI and UX, the UI feels too crowded. It scales poorly. It feels overwhelming as you get more flowers. It is also difficult to see which flowers you are missing, and difficult to pick the correct flowers to breed. The buttons to collect the flowers and to place the flowers are very small. And on top of that, using fertilizers feels really bad. Right now, the fertilizers increase the chance for getting a rarer flower, but there is no guarantee. And I will tell you that since you don't get that many of them, when I use a legendary fertilizer and I get a basic quality flower, It feels like a kick in the gut. You do not want your players to feel like that. Now I know specifically what I dislike about this part of my project, and it's no longer in the land of the wake. It sucks. I know specifically what it is that I need to work on. I have named the problems, and now it's time to make it actionable by finding solutions and creating a to-do list. So let's see, how do we solve these problems? It's a menu, not an experience. The answer to that is to create its own separate scene that has a little bit more eye candy and is less cluttered. The second problem I actually do not have an answer for right now, because the UI rework is a very complex problem that will affect the entire game, and it will need to be its own task at some later point. So I am going to work with the graphics that I have for it right now. And since I am using themes in Godot, it will be relatively easy for me to rework this as a whole at a later point. For the user experience, I need to create bigger buttons for the collection and planting and more spacious selection lists. I definitely need to add filtering and preview, which will solve the problems of not being able to see which flowers you're missing and picking the correct flowers to breed. I also want to add a quick redo button that will allow you to reselect the last two parents in case that you do not get the offspring that you wanted. And at last, I need to bump the minimum quality when using a fertilizer. So, for the epic fertilizer, the minimum quality that you will always receive will be rare. And for the legendary fertilizer, the minimum quality will always be epic. There are like 144 flowers and 6 legendaries. So I think it is okay to do this bump in quality. Even with that, it will still take you a long time to collect everything. There is enough content. Is this the finals version 3? Probably not. But I can leave it like this for now because it is already miles better from what it used to be. And I will revisit it at some point in the future with fresh eyes and hopefully some extra feedback and make it better. In the meantime, I can focus on other parts of the game, and this way I will eventually end up with nicely finished and polished product. After I went through this cycle a few times and I saw that things can and will get better, I started looking forward to revising my work instead of dreading it as I used to. Let me know in the comments how you deal with perfectionism in your own life, and I will see you around.